Hello, welcome back to one of the other vids at the Bee Oasis. So today I want to talk about my hybrid chicken tractor crop rotation regenerative ag system. That's a mouthful, I know. So I have my coop, that's a tractor, it's on wheels. I have my temporary structure, meaning that the structure that is the chicken run is going to be disassembled, relocated to its new location. In this case, it's going to be right in front of me right here. This space right here is going to be the new location for the coop and the door itself. And then I'll rebuild the chicken run around the coop and door that's going to be here. So I do this 4 times a year. So the chicken coop that move from the autumnal fall location where it is now gets moved to here, the winter location, because it has a greater amount of sun, so it's warmer for the chickens during the winter time, and they get to eat all the leftovers that are in the bed except for the plants that I'm protecting. In this case, a couple of tomato plants that I put in the ground in October. So this area is the spring, the winter area for the chickens. Now they move over to the far side of my 20 by 20. So this is going to be a 20-ish by 7 place here. The coop and everything gets moved over there in the spring. Then they come in the center of the bed in the summer, but the coop gets installed here in the deepest section where the greatest amount of shade and the greatest amount of water to keep the chickens cool in the summer. It's 110 degrees and it's brutal, so overhead shade that goes up around April-ish depending on the weather, comes off in October. So there's half the year this thing has a overhead shade, and then the ground itself has mulch, and I shade the soil itself, and so that's the procedure. So fall, autumn over there where it is now comes into the western side of my bed in the winter, the eastern side of the bed in the spring, and in the center in the summer. So that's the basic process. Now I need to catch the chickens. I only have 2. There's 2 of us that live here on a regular basis. 2 chickens is plenty. 2 chickens is the minimum. They need companionship. They do get lonely when there's only 1 chicken left over. You always want to try and maintain that little bit of tribalness. You're still going to get the pecking order no matter what you do. So they're going to temporarily be moved over into that little pen over there. Their food and water is going to be dropped over there, while for several hours I'm going to disassemble, move, reassemble in this location. I pre-cleaned the chicken coop. So this is the debris, so this is going to go to the compost pile. So this is the chicken poop, and these are basically just pine needles, because I have a big pine tree. I don't need to buy straw when I got a pine tree, so I just harvest off what I've got. So that comes off of the platform that's in here, the nesting boxes, which are in the lower section right in here. And then I've got 2 perches, because you always want one higher than the other, otherwise they're fighting for the top position. And I've got a vent on the upper side here, and it's open at the bottom, so I can get passive cool air coming in from the bottom, hot air leaving the coop. I also, because the temperatures have increased, I have these temporary blocks that I add to the side of the coop so I can raise the lid. That is why there's a little bit of mesh here. This little bit of mesh is like that, so during the summer the roof is temporarily elevated so that they can have greater amount of airflow during the time when the heat is bad, because if they're laying inside the coop during the heat of the afternoon, they don't get any air flow. So it's critical. I have had a number of chickens die in the coop while they're either laying an egg or they're sitting on the eggs. That is a problem, especially if you have one that continues to sit on the eggs and won't ever get off. So you got to keep knocking them off the eggs and harvest the eggs so that they don't stay inside the coop too long in the summer. Otherwise, I mean, we're going to have a 60 some degree day today. It's, you know, it's winter time here, so to speak. So I have leftover roof from my house that I used on here, and that keeps some of the heat out and the rain out. In front of the coop, I have a lean-to. That lean-to is there because when it rains, when it does rain on occasion here in sunny Phoenix area, Arizona, I need a dry spot. So underneath the coop and underneath the lean-to protector, there's areas of soil which is dry. They need to have a dry spot because they need to dust their feathers to deal with the mites. So everywhere else has water on it except underneath the coop and behind the lean-to. The lean-to also serves as shade from the sun. So in this case, the lean-to is facing south, so it's protecting a little bit from the southern sun. When we move it over to the winter location, it's going to protect it more from the western sun, where it gets some of the south sun because these guys are light chickens, and so they can't tolerate the cold that well. They need a little bit of protection from the freeze and stuff like that. That's why they're elevated. That's why they're protected inside the coop. That's why the roof has options to it. I try to make it as comfortable as I can. Happy chickens make happy eggs, right? And I would definitely want that. So the chickens, they're in this area right here. They're going to clean that area. They're going to clean the bugs. They're going to clean the weed seeds. And they're going to pre-poop the whole area. So then that's ready for the next crop. So that's what I mean by the regenerative ad style, that we're bringing in one set of animals and then moving them to a different paddock. So these are my little paddocks here, and then plant after them so that area is prepared and I don't have to do the work. Chickens are my day crew. The night crawlers, or the deep worms, the earthworms, they're coming up. They're my night crew. And then the fungi and bacteria which I build into the soil are my 24/7 crew. So I don't have to do as much. Intelligent work. Work starts here. Then it starts here. All right, I'm going to move the chickens. So let's see how that goes. Okay, chickens are moved over. They're okay for a while there. Now I'm going to start looking at the process of taking this down. So I'm going to take out the lean-to and the little elevated structure over there. I'll bring that out. Then I'm going to start taking down. So I've got plastic topper right here, chicken thing that I was given. So that's going to come off next, and then the chicken wire is going to start coming out. I got everything held together with these rebar stakes. So these 6-footers right here, you know, really do a good job in holding the wire in place, and I'll show you how to do that. I kind of weave the rebar through it, and the door unit is on bolts which have an eye bolt on the inside. So on the inside, the eye bolts will be disconnected And this whole door frame section is going to be set aside until I get the coop repositioned, and then it all goes back together. So that's the idea. I'm going to start, this is where I finished up over here. This is where the plastic wire went on. I got it clipped and various places. And with plastic netting, there's a little bit of give to it, whereas with the chicken wire, not so much. That's one piece out. I got another piece a little bit further along. I'm going to keep working on this. It's all a matter of clips and bits of rebar and stuff in here. It's always great to have a lot of clamps. You can see I got clamps holding the shade cloth onto my. This is a 3/4 inch galvanized conduit piping. And so back in the day when I had a lot more, back 10 years ago when I had actual freezes in the winter, this was my greenhouse. So I had two end panels, so one closed and one with a door in it. And then I just had the 10-foot sheet just went up and over and top and down. And that sheet, then I just taped everything together temporarily for the winter. And I had growing all my starts and all my tender things in here. I used to grow the tomatoes directly in the ground in my greenhouse, which again is only up for 2 months. So now I'm lucky if I get one freeze. So yeah, there's more bugs because there's not enough freezes. So this one I have so that I can lock it in. I've got some electrical conduit U-clamps on here, so on the frame itself. So as I pull this out, which I might need my pliers because the rebar gets stuck in the ground. Oh, there it goes. So this little thing is one of the pellet feeders, and I have it suspended on there, and that keeps it out of the rain and keeps it elevated from the ants. We don't have that many soil organisms in here. What we have a lot of in these dry desert soils is termites and ants. So those are our miners, as it were. We have less earthworms in the desert soils, and like I say, more ants and termites. So those are the ones. So we have ants, and so we have to elevate food in this situation. So the next job I'm going to do is disconnect the gate, assemble. So I have to go inside. I got a wing nut inside here, and then I've got another one further down below. It's high on this end, so I got to make divots for the wheels to settle down in. so that this 2x4 or 2x3 or whatever it is there will sit closer to the ground and it will stabilize. Now the one thing I do have to block right here is my sprinkler head. So I have sprinkler heads in the corners and the cross quarters. So I'm just going to take this off. These are adjustable nozzles. Come on, off you go. Stick a cap on it. Now I've just isolated that one there. So that one that goes out at 90-degree angle is now disconnected. There's one over there that is currently a 180 angle. And I'm going to reduce that to like around 130, so it goes, so it's no water directly spraying onto the coop from the garden, but everything else around the garden still gets watered, so it's still a practical working system for both plants and animals. This is my Stapelia from England. I've had this for 50 years. The other thing that needs to be leveled is this stone to elevate the water container, so I need to level this. Because you want it as close as you can, because the pan, if you don't have it leveled out, the water is going to breach on one aspect of the circle, and so it's good. Now I got to line up the holes, so this is now about ½ an inch down, so because I have to put it in various locations, I have to have it adaptable, so I need a piece of wood just to elevate it for about ½ an inch. Now I've got the wing nuts in place. Now I'm just testing the gate to make sure it opens and closes well, that I don't have to lift or lower, and that the gate latch works. That's the main thing. Now again, this is set up so that when I attach, I have these conduit clamps on here. So the wire goes on and the rebar goes through and clamps everything in place on here, and then I'll begin to roll it, back around. That's going to be my corner post, and I'm just going to wrap that around there. Now I've got to make sure I don't push this rebar through the irrigation lines, which are underground about 6 inches and right by the brick edge, so I know that when I drive that down, it's not going to be a huge issue. Alright, so I've got a little bit of overlap on the coop, and what I'm going to do is feed it through the top and then just weave it and catch it in similar locations down the wire, so I've got a nice solid end that I can pull on, stabilized on top and bottom primarily. The bits in the middle are just a little extra. It's the top and bottom you want the most. So just weave it through like so. For a little addition, then I can put a little wire right here and just put a little loop from the handle on the rebar, so that stays in place. A brick that's a block. So I want one for sure that's in line with the gate. So one for sure is going in there, and a gate. There'll be one at the corner, so I need one in between the corner post and this post. And I'm going to add a little bit of temporary shade cloth to this area. I have some PVC tubing that goes across and makes a area, because A, I want to give them a little bit of shade, and B, because I have that Aleppo pine tree, the hawks sit in there, that's their perch. But fortunately, two houses down, have a bunch of pigeons, so the main prey for the hawk and the owl in the morning and evening, from my tree, they go the other way and not this way. But I want to make sure that the chickens are not being triggered, afraid of that's their main predator. Besides ground animals, the flying birds are their main predator in my situation. I want to say this is like 10 mil rebar, or closest you're going to get to ½ inch. This is like a standard ½ inch. Right here you can kind of see the difference. This is definitely stronger to hold up the corners. They got more pressure on the corners than they do have on the runs. The runs is the vertical, whereas the corners, they got pressure from two directions. I am gonna start here and weave it down, trying to stay in the same cell, so I'm not waggling. It's not a big, huge deal, but you can see if I weave it down like so, and then just catch the bottom. That's where the chickens will want to try and get out, or the cats want to try and get in, whatever you got, and then that's it.
So the clankers are not just for noise, they're for eye protection.
Mostly for eye protection, yeah, because yeah, I don't want to hit my eye on the top of that. That's yeah. Safety is a factor, you know, especially when you're homesteading or whatever. You gotta minimize your risk and maximize your output. So those are the things you have to do that. You're not being a wimp just because you've been safe. It's just a matter of not having to deal with it later. You either deal with it now or you deal with it later, and it's a whole lot easier to deal with it now than it is later. When it comes to this end bit right here, what I'm going to end up doing is probably put one down inside the roll, the tube, like so. Find my way through this maze right here, make sure it's nice and tight to that. Right. I'm going to need another one here because it will stabilize the gate, and then I'll add another rebar to push this bit over so it's not grabbing your clothes every time. So that one's just to stabilize the gate and to mimic the other side, and then this one just going to catch the bottom right there and push this over so that this is then secured there. So this is not a problem. I can still get in and out. I can still sneak down the side. I can still get into here when I need to catch a chicken or feed a chicken or whatever a chicken. Yeah, so we're getting closer. Now I just got to tie those edges down. Some of these, all I can just do is if you find a wobbly bit right there that's leaning out and in your way, you can just go ahead and catch it like so. And now you've stabilized the middle part and the bottom. So that's just another little trick of the trade as it goes. And you learn these things as you do more and more. So I'm just going to catch that one, flip it up there. So now I got that held a little better. To add a layer to where the chickens are not able, because there's enough room here for them to run and then jump, flap over the 4-footer right here. So if we add this so that it's like there, then that defeats their ability to fly out. So I'm gonna, there's that, see that overlap down the bottom, so I'm gonna just, put a couple of these on there like that, like so. But this one I'm gonna have to like measure where it's at and then figure, I can't wrap it, so I gotta feed it. So this is the cell in my hand right here, which is that one. So, and I want the overlap, so I want to go there. I'm going to go in there, so I'm going to drop the roll for the moment until I can get this in place. Again, you're still trying to follow the same row of cells. Otherwise it will get weird. Close. But that one's slightly off. I need to bring that one over one. Or maybe I'll take it over two. Give me a bit of room. Yeah, that's about as tricky as this stuff gets. Look at that. Lovely. Now I need another stick right here just to hold this in place right here, another long stick, and then weave those all together. With a clamp, like one of these clamps, see these clamps come in handy, where I can clamp the two bits of wire together, like so. That helps out. Okay, now that I've sewn that together, like that. I need a walkway right here. Again, I'm just trying to reduce the amount of compaction that I made, even though I'm not gardening. I still have compaction issues on my clayey soil, so I'm just want to have the platform for me to get in and out for their food, And then that's it. That's just all I need to really worry about is that piece right there, just to get in and out. Now the reason I have this little chunk of metal sheeting right here is that when this is in the different location where there's more of the damaging sun, this goes over here and protects the rubber wheel from too much sun. So that's the purpose of that. You know, I don't need it in every location, but I want to show you so that you may not have the conditions I have. Now this piece is the last little piece to go in, so just going to take out the half bricks that I have. That is my bumper. It's just a half brick. A patio brick, it's a half brick. Alright, so I need to put these in at an angle opposite to the lean-to shade and rain protection. You notice how I'm saying things twice? I can't take the educator out of me. Sometimes you need to hear it twice, or sometimes thrice. You never know how many times you need to hear something for it to go in there, in the lug-ons, as we say in England, in your ear-ons over here. I want it so as that it's going to protect the chickens from any winter rains or any cold winds right now, so I'm going to leave it up so there's a little half-inch gap here, just enough of a vent to allow a bit of any of the midday heat out. So now I know where the holes are. Right, there's one right there. I got to dig that right there, and I got to dig down right there. Now you can see that where the water and the food is now, it's protected from this side. The rain can't get to it, so that then minimizes any damage to the food and keeps it dry so it's edible, doesn't get contaminated, and also it's a protection from the rain and the sprinklers so that the area below is dry. So what I do is I put this raised area in, so sometimes they like to nest in the cool earth. Sometimes they want to be elevated. So I might choose to put like this elevated section right here with the stones, which are on the other side, of course. So you can see now that they've got that little bit of elevation where there's airflow underneath them. Good. That's it. Now I just need to bring the water over, and then the chickens. We're close to ready. What I haven't done yet is I haven't done the poles over top. That's going to be in a little bit. Okay, we're ready to put these PVC hoop onto the tops of the 3 sets of rebars to create the platform, of which we take this shade cloth from here and move it over to there as shade and as from predator to hawk prevention. So it just gives them a little bit of protective space. It's like a cloud over the top. So this one, because it has the strings on it, and I'll show you how the strings work in a minute, that's going to go on the far end, and then the other 2 sets of hoops on the ground that go in between, we might have to juggle and finick things to make it all work, but that's going on. And then I'm going to carry on cleaning in here so it's ready to receive water and nutrients and ingredients. because this bed is going to get planted up in February. So that's my next project, to start feeding the soil. Alright, now we have a hoop, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to support this by sticking this thing on there, which will hold it back from the pressure that I'm going to be pulling from the other direction. So you need to have some support for these struts when we have lateral pull. That creates it so that I can walk underneath this thing. The reason for the strings is to give a little bit of torsion to the system. So I go over, under, and around. Over, under, around, and I can either, bring it out here and tie it off here, or I can do whatever I want. And that little bit of tension right there keeps the shade cloth from doing the sag. Pomegranate was put there intentionally to shade. As the sun goes around to the west, this pomegranate casts a shade over this area here. Where I got my tomatoes in, they don't like direct sun, but they need plenty of light. And so the pomegranate is a good source, especially since it drops its leaves in the winter. So it allows more light in. So when I get ready to plant in here, this will be more open to the sun. Not pretty, but functional. So again, if it's loose, then the hawk's got nothing to stand on and do anything. It's just going to collapse and it's going to fly right away again. So I don't want it real tight. I just want it less obvious that there's chickens below, and that makes it harder to get to. So not too bad for a 4-hour kind of, if you at it straight, 4 hours, you can get the whole thing from one location to another, disassemble, reassemble. The one little add-on that I'm going to do today is that I'm going to add a light. So from mid-December to mid-January, I add a lamp just to add a bit of light so that the chickens are out feeding a bit longer and still continue to lay eggs. Even though even though it's cooler and stuff, it just wants a little bit more, just a tad more light in here. I'm just going to point the light down towards where the feed and water is at, and then just let them be in here, and then this is just going to get tucked in up in the corner. The appliance timer is just for that light. It just comes on for an hour. 1 hour, just add 1 hour during the winter and it keeps the eggs laying going. They're slower, so they're not laying like they are in the summer. So now I'm just going to finish up, do a bit of a rake in here so you can kind of see this area a little more clearly. Here I want you to see this sunken area. Remember I said I dug a little bit underneath the coop so that they had, see how dry that is? We've had rain after rain after rain, but that right there, that's their dust bath. So that's why that piece is important. And back here you can see where they've been digging holes. So, you know, my board got loose. So I have to fix my perimeter board over there. So what I have is irrigation in here that's connected to my whole house drip system. I have one valve that does the entire property. And then I hold it in place with these U-pins so that I can separate the tubing. This is inline drippers. So there's a dripper here, there's a dripper here, there's a dripper. Every foot there's a dripper. So this is now a future bed. We may or may not stick a few photos onto the end of this video to show you like the after and the next or something like that. I don't know what we're going to do. We're still learning as we go. So this is all like perfect compost material because it's a mixture of browns, all the leaves and pine needles, thank you very much, and also all the poop, all the chicken poop. So it would be considered hot if it were just the poop, but we got a lot of mixture. So this has been their bedding for the last 3 months. So now this becomes the resource. Their leftovers, their digestive system creates high levels of nitrogen fertilizer. So because it's high and it can burn, you have to dilute it. You have to mix it. You have to mix it with the browns so that the nitrogen isn't as hot. And there we go, that's good enough. So right here I'm going to fix the soil a little bit. There's extra soil here and not enough there, so I'm going to pull this over, and then I'm going to take my bucket of leaves, which is over there, and I'm going to spread them around and put the mulch back down again. So then this bed is now going to be ready for cultivation. I'll refix the borders, I'll pull the irrigation out of the way and dig it back over again, and it's ready for my February planting of tomatoes. So soon I'm going to be starting the seed. The tomato starts inside the house under a grow lamp, and then I'll bring those starts out in February, and then I'll do another batch in March, at the end of March, when I move this over to the other side for the April, May, June segment. Then this is also going to be the second round of tomatoes. Do you think I like tomatoes? Yes I do. Yes I do love tomatoes. So I'm going to be growing as much as I can and see what happens. Okay, I think I'm going to add this chicken poop to go back to the composting area. That's going to be a whole nother segment. Thank you very much for listening and learning about this one piece of a strategy for combining your chickens with your food growing chickens with the kitchen food source and the regenerative ag style of using animals as part of your soil restoration. It's all important, very important. So thank you again for listening to this segment. I hope it's not too long again, but I'm here to educate, not just give you a teaser. I want you to say, oh, I can do that at the end of this video. That's the point. Shoot any questions you might have into the comments, and I'll do my best to look me up on the Facebook, Bee Oasis, and 4 Directions Permaculture. So thank you very much. Cheers.